I will never forget the first time that I was told definitively that because I'm a woman, I cannot have it all. I was sitting in a conference room, kind of looks like this, for my very first conference in higher ed. I was about 22 years old. And I was bright-eyed and eager and fully committed to my career and my big dreams. And I sat there with other younger professionals in the field, and we very eagerly listened to advice of older, more experienced professionals. We talked about things like how to avoid burnout, and advocating for yourself in your first job, and gaining a diverse skill set. All of a sudden, a woman who had been pretty quiet perked up. She was about, let's say, 15 to 20 years older than myself, and she was in an upper mid-level professional type role. She looked frustrated and perplexed, and honestly, she just looked really exhausted. Let's call her the Lady Dream Crusher, because she was about to drop some serious knowledge on all of us on what it meant to be a working woman in higher education. She started talking about her experience and some challenges within her own career while battling her husband's career aspirations and raising 3 small children. The details kind of escape me at this point, but I will never forget her final few words. She said, "It is impossible for a woman to have it all. It's impossible. You just can't do it, so you might as well give up hope." The room fell silent as she sat back down in her chair, and I panicked. My eyes welled up with tears. I'm even choking up a little bit now, just rethinking about it. I felt like the dreams of myself and my entire generation had been crushed. Because to be quite honest, this also came at a time in my life when I was looking around at my current institution that I was at, and seeing a lot of women in entry and mid-level type roles, but not a ton in senior and VP type positions. And it was making me a little nervous. Was this no longer an observation of just my own? Was there actually some backing to this? Could women really not, quote unquote, have it all? What did that even really mean? And so this is something that's honestly kind of perplexed me and plagued me throughout my career for the past few years, and in many ways shaped how I viewed my time in the MBA program. I've been trying to answer, if you really can, not really, the question, what does it mean for women to have it all? And if they can have it all, or can they not, why or why not? Why is this a narrative that seemingly is so impossible for our career and for women in our society? So, in doing some research, to be honest, it's a little bit daunting if you look at it. Women indeed are vastly underrepresented at basically any higher level in any organization across basically all industries. Women only represent about 5% of Fortune 1000 CEOs, and women only make up about 20% of board seats in Fortune 500 companies. About 5% of those go to women of color, so not super great. In looking at a study that McKinsey put together, you can see that as women progress through our organizations, they are not nearly well represented as in senior level type positions in organizations. This is interesting though, given the fact that women in the United States are earning more bachelor's degrees as well as more master's and doctoral degrees than men at this point. And over the past 70 years, women are also have doubled their participation in the US workforce, which is great. So we're making a lot of progress. We have an abundance of well-qualified, ambitious, well-educated women. So what's going on? Furthermore, we also now know that there's immense economic benefits to women participating in our workforce. For companies that have more gender diversity at the senior level executive roles in their organization, we've been able to prove through research that they are more financially successful. So if we know all these great things, then why is there still a glass ceiling in place? Why are there still pipeline issues for women achieving positions at the top? So this honestly could be a talk that can go on for probably hours, and I only have a few minutes, so I'm just going to walk through a few of the reasons why there seem to be some barriers that are still going on in our workplaces for women, and truthfully in society for women. One of them being that we are making progress in this, but truthfully there's still definitely some not great narratives in terms of what we aspire for our leaders and managers within organizations, and a lot of those characteristics still match up with what are stereotypically described in terms of male characteristics. So males are stereotypically described as being independent or competitive or competent or decisive, and those are also things that we're generally looking for in a manager or a supervisor. So if that implicit bias is something that we're looking for, no wonder that there's a pipeline problem. Again, there's research showing that we're making some great strides in this, but we definitely have a ways to go. Another big challenge is the fact that many women, basically 2 to 1 in comparison to men, are experiencing gender discrimination in the workplace. This is a study done by the Pew Center, and you can see that a lot of women have experienced one of these 8 forms of gender discrimination in the workplace. And a study done by Marist this past fall, done in November, showed that about 35% of women in the United States have experienced sexual harassment in their workplace, compared to about 9% of men. Now, the goal is that no one will have to experience harassment or any form of discrimination in their workplace at all, regardless of gender. And clearly, we have a long way to go. This is obviously incredibly traumatizing and harmful for anyone to be experiencing, and that's why it's cited as a pipeline barrier and challenge. This is something that can honestly be an entire talk topic in and of itself, but I firmly believed that it was something that really needed to be worth mentioned in my conversation with you, and therefore I wanted to bring it up, even if it's only briefly. There's also, as you can imagine, many women may leave the workforce if they choose to have children. But if you dig a little bit deeper into what's behind this, it's a little bit surprising. A lot of women, when they've been interviewed, have stated that they opt out of working because of workplace issues once they've returned from maternity leave, even if it's actually been after multiple children. Women will opt out because of the lack of flexible work schedule options or parental leave policies, or because they feel that they have been marginalized for decisions that they've made in the workplace. A study done at Harvard showed that women felt that they were, quote, that they were taking advantage of options through their workplace, like flexible work schedule options and things like that, and that some women had their responsibilities and or positions reduced after they returned from maternity leave. There's a term for this, it's called being mommy tracked, which is when you go on maternity leave, you return, and without your consent, you have your job responsibilities and your position changed, and it's generally diminished. So again, a lot of women are leaving, but it may not be for reasons that we think it is. It's because they're actually not progressing or being challenged anymore when they return. And that's definitely something that we really should be working on changing. There's also something called the motherhood penalty, which is the average difference in a starting salary offered to a woman or a perceived female candidate versus a childless woman. This has been done or kind of validated in sociological experiments where participants will be given 2 identical application materials, sets of applicant materials. One will state that person is on a parent-teacher association, and one will just not have that, they'll omit it. For women, if they are offered a job, it's generally a lot less likely for the parent that is a mother to be offered a job, and if she's lucky enough to get offered the job, that is kind of the dock and pay that she receives. If it's male candidates that have this, there's no penalty at all. There's no difference in terms of if they're a parent or not a parent in terms of whether they get an offer, and no difference in pay. No penalty for men, big penalty for women with children. So what are some things that we can do in order to make workplaces have less barriers for women, and honestly our society in general better for women? And again, I can go into a lot more detail on this, but these are a few suggestions that I would like to pose and put forth. And some are a bit daunting, but I think this is a great audience so that we can go back and advocate for these changes in our workplaces and in our societies and homes and our communities. One being we need to not only continue to press for having flexible work schedule options and affordable and better parental leave type policies and affordable childcare options, but we also need to break down the stigmas associated with that. People are not, unmotivated or, not as great workers for using those resources. We all want what's best for all the people that we deeply care about, and we need to keep working forth to make sure that people feel that they can utilize those wonderful resources. Another thing that we should continue to press for in our workplaces is opportunities for women to be I tried to put the 2 words together, mentored and sponsored. It's important for women to be able to see that they have someone in their organizations to look for. A study by Forbes showed that only about 47% of women can identify a senior level executive in their workplace that can serve for them as a mentor, and it would be really wonderful if we can increase that by a little bit, by a lot actually. Women that have mentors are more likely to be able to move through the pipeline because they have people that are able to support them and guide them and give them career advice. We also need to be continuing to not just promote women and recruit women, but once we get them into positions, we need to be able to better support them by providing them with educational and training opportunities. And not just doing this on an individual basis, but providing larger training opportunities and educational opportunities to make our workplaces in our industries safer and creating more accepting cultures. We also need to continue to combat discrimination and harassment in the workplace. No one should be going to work and feeling not safe. Everyone deserves dignity and respect. And lastly, we need to continue to rise each other up instead of breaking each other down. Ever since the Lady Dream Crusher incident 7 years ago, it's been 7 years, there's been other dream crushers that have come into my life and have come into my friends' lives. We've had some really not great things told to us. We've been told that financial resources have been wasted on us by becoming college-educated women if we were just going to leave to have children or just to have children. We've been told that we need to have a significant job change or change industries if we were going to have children. We've been told that we can't have children at all and think that we're going to work. We've been told that we don't have the great skill sets or things like that for the industry or job that we've chosen. But we've also had a lot of really wonderful mentors and sponsors who have encouraged us and guided us and supported us and listened to us and pushed us forward. And I want to thank many of my sponsors and mentors who are in this room right now. I used to think of the Lady Dream Crusher as an antagonist. That's why I gave her a terrible name. I've thought of her as this terrible person in my head, but to be honest, I now have an immense amount of empathy for her because I can only imagine all of the life experiences that she has had in society or at home or in life in general that got her to the very defeated point that I saw her that day. And I hope instead that we can all work together to pave a better path for women so that no one has to feel the way she did that day or the way that many other women have felt at other different points in their life. Sometimes thinking about all of this can seem really overwhelming to me. It's a little scary to think about what's going to come ahead for us and for future generations. But when I feel a little nervous, I think about one of my favorite poems from Rupi Kaur, which reminds me to continue to press for progress. Kind of one of my ultimate goals is just to be able to create and pave a better path for women that come after me as I thank and express an immense amount of gratitude for all of the wonderful women who have come before me. I want to work to continue to break and crush barriers down instead of crushing dreams. I know it sounds really idealistic, but I think there's a big difference between choices and compromises. We all have to do that in life. That's what life's about. Can't have your cake and eat it too. But there's a big difference between that and just being simply told no. So I hope that you'll all join me in helping us to help all women be able to achieve their deepest dreams and all of their fullest desires. Thank you.